like Singapore.
Okay. Well, welcome to both of you. So, the art of the tree whisperer. Tell us about that.
This documentary is probably about the fourth one that I've worked on, and this is pretty special. We're going to air it this September 14th at the Rivian Theater at 6:30, and it focuses on a master art craftsman, Randy Bader, and it's a privilege to be able to work with him on this for the last 18 months.
Right. Now, Randy, I see you walking by the studio every day, and you and I mean this, you're one of the most modest people I know for the talent that you have. When he first started coming around and filming, is that a little off-putting for you?
No, because Charles moved in. He's my neighbor upstairs.
Right.
So he'd come by the studio constantly, and he's always interested in the woodworking.
Right.
He started taking the occasional picture.
Right.
Then he started taking the occasional video.
Right.
And then he said, I think we should do a documentary.
Right.
And I was kind of like, really? And so he had constant access to me. And
Right.
I would call him up. I go, hey, Charles, I'm doing this. And he'd come down and take some more shots. In fact, I think he's still editing the the program for Saturday.
Yeah, I'll be done a week from today.
So I would imagine that an artist, especially one that works with the detailed, fine woodwork that you do, would want to work alone without anybody taking pictures or observing even.
Actually, I don't mind because occasionally I've been asked to talk for woodworking groups and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
I kind of think about Stradivarius. He didn't share his secrets,
Right.
so everybody has to start from scratch again.
Right.
So it's going to be a little interesting to see how people react to some of the ways I work,
Right.
because as opposed to an East Coast school of woodworking, where you learn techniques, you learn tool sharpening, traditional ways. I was brought up on the West Coast,
Right.
where we learned sculpture, two-dimensional design, three-dimensional design, and then we designed something in the wood program, and we'd scratch our head and go, how would you make that?
Right.
So I do stuff a little different than the average bear.
Right.
So it doesn't bother me to have him down there.
Okay. And I remember growing up, 7th and 8th grade, we had to take wood shop in school. Were you a kid that excelled at that?
Okay, so I never had an art class in elementary, middle, or high school.
Wow.
But I did have woodwork. I had the engine class where we rebuilt the engine.
Right.
I had the metals class where we poured metal, hot metal in 7th grade. So I had all the shop classes.
You had to share goggles with other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Too, yeah.
And I had no idea about being an artist
Right.
until my junior year in college.
Right.
And at that point, I had just moved out with my surfing buddy, and we had nothing because we'd lived in our bedrooms at home.
Right.
So I designed 2 chairs that could be made out of plywood and some 1x4s, and a coffee table made out of 1x8s and 4x4s. And my dad always had a little shop in the garage. And so that summer I had this epiphany. I wanted to do something nobody in the world had ever done, which was make furniture that was like art.
Right.
I knew nothing about Bauhaus. I knew nothing about Art Deco, Art Nouveau, nothing about any of that. So the next semester I dropped all my pre-med, which was all my math, science, and biology,
Right.
and signed up for 4 units of studio art, 1 of art history and 1 GE class. And I learned my first lesson really fast. The closest thing to committing suicide is 4 studio art classes. It's not physically possible.
And how much discarded woodwork was there before you came to your first finished piece?
Amazingly, just about none.
Wow.
Because I build a lot of stuff in my head.
Right.
Now, I have made major mistakes. And so as I've talked to Charles before and many artists, the sign of a really great artist is not how good they do their work. It's how well they fix their mess ups.
Okay. All right. And Charles, what did you learn about Randy during your time filming him?
There was a lot of different things. It was fascinating to see his work ethic. He's very structured when he arrives in the morning. It's within a few moments that he's already working towards his goals for the day, and he's pretty well got them all scheduled out in his head before he comes in. And he doesn't really leave until he gets that done, but he's got it on schedule. So he's very, very focused, structured, and it's great to see the trucks going by, the commerce in action. And his work ethic was very, very impressive. And he wouldn't, I couldn't interrupt him if I tried. So even if I tried, he just kept working away and just keep talking. It was hard to hear him at most of the time with all the equipment and tools and things running. But it was just really fascinating to watch a master, at his craft.
It's still like watching grass grow.
No.
It moves very slowly.
And what was the initial fascination and what compelled you to actually go down and start the conversation and take that first picture or shoot that first video?
Well, I've been fascinated with the concept of legends, and started a photo series in the '80s, and went back with a friend, Harry Huggins, to the Football Hall of Fame, and did a whole series. Spent a week there with about 800 pounds of equipment, 8x10 film, and photographed a series about legends and the whole concept of American legends. I was visualizing a coffee table book of America's top 100 legends, and going back to the artifacts of their equipment and doing a personification of the equipment. And so this initial series that I did of the Football Hall of Fame, it's shown in Honolulu, Four Seasons, Caesar's Palace, and numerous places. And that was kind of the original concept of dealing with people with legends. And so, and as that was more photography, and there's a lot of different spokes in the wheel that I turn, but as I evolved into doing video and started capturing the essence of people's history, I've been working on this piece for Joanne Taufilis out of Oceanside. She's an international muralist and does pieces, and it's a piece it's about 2 years into the work. It may be another 2 years before it's done. Mm-hmm. And then aerial photographer, Fred Emmert, who was one of the top aerial photographers in Orange County. He did a lot of aerial work with a lot of commercial projects, and he's been photographing for a long, long time. And I was using his work and some of the brochure work I was designing for some of the clients. And we eventually finally met, and when I met him, the reality was that he was, in my eyes, what I would call a short-timer. His health was failing, and he used to fly the planes and capture from the air. But what happened was it took like 3-4 months. I talked him into doing a documentary on his life, and so when we finally scheduled it, he was living in a home care center, and they released him just long enough that we could get him to his office, and I shot him, interviewed him for about 90 minutes, and captured his life story, and he just could ramble it off, and it was really, really fascinating. And a week after that, he passed away. And so that documentary I showed at the airplane hangar out in Ontario, and it was a tribute to his life. We brought in his airplane, and everybody told their story about him. And then as soon as everybody was done, I turned on the video, and it starts with, "My name is Fred Emmert," and everybody just stopped what they're doing, and people were crying, and then he told his story, and that's kind of the essence of where some of this started from.
Okay. I noticed you, Randy, as he was saying the word legend and was talking about legends, you got very uncomfortable, and I mentioned your modesty earlier. Are you aware of how great an artist you are? Or that doesn't sink in to you, does it?
Not a clue.
Right.
The only thing that keeps me going right now, as far as work, it's not financial, it's not notoriety.
Right.
It's the look on people's faces when they pick up their pieces.
Right.
I mean, it's spooky to me. I don't I still, after all these years, don't understand why people gravitate towards my work.
Right.
I've never made anything, I've never made a piece of art for somebody else. I make it for me, and I want them to enjoy it, but it's not like, I don't look at what can sell.
Right.
I just make what I want to make, and I've been very fortunate. I'm also very stubborn. I haven't ever succumbed to, could you make that for me? I'll pay you any price.
Right.
And no, I only make Randy Bader stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's a kind of, this whole thing is kind of odd to me.
If you wouldn't mind, let's continue on that for a second. Something that is only Randy Bader stuff. What would they ask that is not a Randy Bader type
They'd bring me a picture of a chair or bring me a picture of a table or some object and say, can you make that for me?
Right.
And I say, that's not what I do.
Right.
Now, on rare occasions, I do repair stuff, but I only repair things that have an emotional attachment to the person. I don't repair things just because they're broken.
Right.
It has to be something that's really important, and sometimes it's something as silly as a salad bowl. I mean, I've done 2 or 3 women's salad bowls, and each one of them, oh, I bought this in the Philippines. I bought this in Africa.
Right.
And so I'll do stuff like that.
All right. And is there a particular item that you've made that you've kept? You like, yeah, I'm not getting rid of this ever. Is there something that's your favorite, or is there close to maybe 2 or 3 items that you've kept?
My house is pretty bereft of what I do. Now, I have a dining room set,
Right.
but most of the pieces that I've kept
Right.
weren't for me. They're for my wife.
Okay.
Now, my wife has passed away, but occasionally I'd have a piece and my wife would go, oh, I love that piece. And I'd say, if it doesn't sell, you can have it. And invariably, every piece that I gave her, 2 days after the show, someone called up wanting to buy it. And I said, I'm sorry, it's gone.
Gone. That's just like a sold sign right there.
No
yeah.
backtracking on my wife.
That's good. That's good.
And is there I've seen a lot of your work. Fascinated by the difference in, for instance, the detail of a beautiful rocking chair or the detail of a clock. Mindset going into each of these items.
You know, I don't know about a mindset, but people ask me what's my favorite wood to work with. And I always give them the same answer. Whatever piece I'm working on at that moment.
Right.
Because I'm always trying to get the most out of each piece.
Right.
And sometimes I will stare at boards for months or years. And then I'll finally go, okay, it's time. I did a whole series of wooden teapots.
Okay.
And I'd been toying with teapots for about 8 years. And when my business partner, Terry, died, the last thing in his shop was a 4x10 of Doug fir. And I looked at that and I said, that's the perfect thing to try an experimental teapot. So I made 4 prototypes. And then after that, I made about 20 teapots. And people would ask, can you use them? And I'd say, sure. And they go, what happens when you put them on the stove? I say, they burn up. Because collectible teapots, the vast majority, or close to 100% of collectible teapots, are functionless. So I always wondered why people would make ceramic ones that look like wood.
Right.
They'd make metal ones, they'd make glass ones. I didn't figure out why no one ever made wooden ones that looked like wood.
So it doesn't have to be practical, though. Does your work have to be practical?
The teapots all had to have 4 things.
Okay.
They had to be a hollow vessel, so not just a block of wood.
Right.
The spout had to be hollow, connected to the hollow vessel.
Right.
It had to have a lid. It had to have a handle. So if you actually did put a liquid in it, it would pour out.
Okay.
There was no reason for that other than how I felt about it. I didn't want to just make blocks of wood that looked like teapots.
Right. Is there wood? You mentioned Douglas fir. Is there a particular wood that's harder to work with than other woods?
All right. You've heard this one. Wood is like a woman.
Okay.
If you know their personality, you know their quirks, and you deal with them appropriately, you'll be just fine. If you don't know their personality and start doing something wrong, you're in big trouble. So each wood has its own personality.
Right.
And so when I'm working with figured maple, I have to think one way. When I'm working with koa, I have to think a whole different way. So each wood, I have to look at the board and go, okay, now what are you hiding from me that's going to give me a problem? Because you cannot do what I do without making a mistake on almost every piece. And my goal isn't to have perfection. My goal is an acceptable level of imperfection. Because you're never going to get it perfect.
Perfectly stated. Perfectly stated. And Charles, as it's been a couple of years that you started this, right? You started filming him a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Okay. In that span, and I have already asked you what you've learned about him, but in that span, is he what you expected him to be?
Well, it's a fascinating process because you see, as I stated before, the work ethic, but his dynamic personality that comes out and it showcases, and he's always got a different perspective or joke or line of why he's doing something one way or another. And but he was also fascinating because he was at the same time, and it's probably just his personality, but he was actually teaching me along the way exactly the entire process. And that was really fascinating because he was just spontaneously working away and creating masterpieces at the same time sharing the process and why he did something a certain way and why he won't do it a different way.
Right.
It was cool. It was very cool.
I get the feeling you're set in your ways.
You know, I try not to be,
Right.
but and trying something new has been something I've always done,
Right.
like the spiral clocks.
Which are beautiful.
No one had I'd never seen
Beautiful.
people making clocks like that.
Right.
One thing that never happens in my booth, except for the rocking chair, because a rocking chair is so American. Everybody knows what a rocking chair is like.
Right.
But no one ever walks by my booth and says, "This reminds me of."
Right.
Now they say, for a while it was funny. It was that modern? What's that word? Mid-century modern.
Okay.
And I would tell them no, and then they'd say Art Deco, and I'd say no, I'm before that. In other words, the same things that inspired Art Deco and the same things that inspired Art Nouveau. So some of my pieces are inspired by the industry, buildings, bridges. I have a lot of bridge pieces. And the things that also inspire me are nature. And that's basically what inspired Art Deco and Art Nouveau. So yes, my pieces may look like that, but that's not the intention.
You traveled the world. What did you see? And no kidding, that the audience doesn't hear that traffic on the side. As long as we're talking into these mics, they're cool. It's only us that hears it. But you traveled the world, and I'm curious as to where you found the greatest inspiration. What part of the world did you find the greatest inspiration to what you do now?
I don't know that I found any inspiration from traveling the world. I did a 2-year trip around the world. I convinced my committee member at Cal State Fullerton to give me 1 credit a semester for doing independent research. Okay. So I went to the London College of Art, the Royal College of Art in London, talked to the professors and students, and I found out that the students don't build the pieces. The TAs build the pieces, they just design them. They not hands-on.
Right.
Then I went to India and I met some of the people who repaired the Taj Mahal. And that just sawing blocks of marble with a handsaw, knowing that anything was possible with just hand tools.
Right.
And then I was watching a guy in Thailand. He was using both his feet and his hands to run a lathe. He held the tools with his feet. He had like a bowstring across the piece he was turning, and he's turning stuff. So maybe the most inspiration I got was, if you had a rock and a hammer, you could probably get just as much done with the rock.
It's called the Art of the Tree Whisperer. It's taking place here next door at the Rivian Theater. Tell us when, where, how do we get in?
You can go online to the Rivian Theater website, and you need to register. It is free. The theater, if you have not seen it, is just fabulous. The vehicles are too, but the theater, I was really, really impressed with what they took over from the historical theater that we used to go to, and just love going there. It's this Saturday, September 14th. I think the doors open at 6:15, something like that. If you're coming into town, make sure you get here like an hour or so earlier. It's always hard to park. But register. It is free. They give you free popcorn and water, but you'll totally enjoy the theater itself. So the show, the Randy Bader, The Art of the Tree Whisperer, will start about 6:30, I believe, or 6:45. I'm not. They tend to bring you in, and then they start at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. But I think it's 6:30.
Okay. And Randy, before I let you go, are you able to, or I know you're probably able to, but do you like working on multiple pieces at one time, or are you so focused that you work on one at a time?
Depends on the piece, but there's a lot of downtime sometimes. Like when I'm making those spiral clocks, I can only glue up one section at a time. They take 24 hours for the glue to kick off.
Right.
So I try to keep busy, as Charles knows. I don't like sitting around the shop doing nothing.
Right.
So I might have a rocking chair and a coffee table at the same time. But the rockers in general, I've gotten it to where I know that every day I know what process I'll be onto, so there's not much downtime. But some, like the S coffee table I do, that's 7 pieces that get laminated up 2 at a time.
Right.
So I have to be building something in between to keep myself busy.
All right. Well, thank you for keeping us busy this morning. The Art of the Tree Whisperer taking place at the Rivian. If you missed any of that information, tag me here at the radio station, and I'll get you to the right place in the right time. Charles Michael Murray, Randy Bader, thank you both so much for being here.
Ed, thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Fantastic having you. 8:25 the time. It's the Mornings with Ed show on the all-new Voice of Laguna.